Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Experience live with Russ and Scott.
Welcome to The Experience live with Russ and Scott.
Special thank you to our sponsors, the Gillette Home team of Keller Williams Willamette. For all your real estate needs, go to teamgillette.com. And for more information on Boson Hub and their digital services, go to bosonhub.com. And for information on the Oregon Fire Museum and the Father's Day run coming up on June 18th, go to OregonFireMuseum.org.
Hey.
Good morning. How you doing? Welcome to The Experience live with Russ and Scott here for your listening and viewing pleasure with the star of the show, D. Scott Smith.
Whoa. I thought that was the with D. Scott Smith. That's starring Russ Edge. But special guest star today, Ted Rubin. It's going to be a good day.
Amen. It's going to be a great day. I'm looking forward to it. So how are you doing this morning, Scott? It was great to see you in backstage and getting all ready.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. We there's just so many things going on. There's so many great things. One of the things that I mentioned was Uplift Leadership, which is a group that's focused on high school students and helping them prepare for the work world. And we've got a summer camp coming up. And down at the University of Oregon, I'll be a camp counselor with the students there, as I said, just looking into the future.
I love camp. I don't love the University of Oregon, but I love camp.
Well, I'm with you there. I am an Oregon State Beaver, just as you are. But
Class of 87.
The campus down there at U of O is beautiful.
Yes.
As
almost as beautiful as Oregon State's.
Yeah. And in fact, I'll be walking past Hayward Field, where many Olympic athletes compete. So, going to be a great time. End of the month, so that's coming up.
They are pretty much stellar in the track arena. That is true. It does help to have Phil Knight as an alumni. And it helps to have, that's where Nike all started. So
yeah, we were just talking with a friend, and they go, well, how come Phil Knight hasn't purchased a sports team? How come he doesn't own the Blazers? So, well, he has purchased a sports team. Just happens to be a Division I college team.
Yeah. He's bought pretty much everything, although I do hear rumors about the others. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But anyway, well, listen, welcome to The Experience live with Russ and Scott. We are here every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time for your listening and viewing pleasure. And we are loving the experience of life. And we bring on amazing people like Mr. Ted Rubin, who has just become a great friend in such a short amount of time. He's an amazing individual, and I'm excited to have him on. But before we do that, we just want to remind you that we love you being part of this community, coming in and joining us every week. Did I say it was at 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on The Experience Live with Russ and Scott, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Before that, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Instagram only. We do the Experience Backstage. It's our prep show. We're getting all ready. We're doing whatever this morning. You never know where you'll find me. This morning, I was out taking my walk with Maddie, my trusty beagle, during that show. So a little bit chaotic at the end there, but we made it through. So had a good time. But we really want you to be part of this group. And if you would be so kind as to subscribe on YouTube, you can become part of our YouTube community. And the best way to do that is to go to the experience.video. Just type in the experience.video. In fact, right now you can open a separate tab and you can subscribe right now. So you get all the past content of the amazing people that have been on the experience, plus notices about upcoming content. And we would love for you to do that, as well as share this show right now. Hit that share button. You can share it out to your friends, whether you're watching live or on replay. You can still let everybody know, whoop, whoop, Live with Russ and Scott is on with Ted Rubin today. You do not want to miss it. So please share that and tag your friends today. And wow, I think that's about it, Scott. I think maybe, Ted has already joined us. I think we should bring Ted in and get started.
Yeah, let's let me just give a little lead in here. I was fortunate to meet Ted back in 2016 in Dublin, Ireland. There we go. It's a little bit early. And he was the keynote speaker there at the social media summit put on by the fabulous Samantha Kelly, the tweeting goddess. And I got to spend a lot of time with him that week. It was just a fabulous time. Was speaking about summer camp. That's what it felt like. Felt like we were at summer camp. And that's where I met Alan Hennessy, co-host of the virtual global tea break, which we started before COVID, which was just an amazing thing. And on the website, we have a quote that I often mention here on the experience from Ted Rubin, because it says that a network gives you reach, but community gives you power. And he's the one that has the phrase, return on relationships. And we're going to have a great time learning from him. The great thing is there's a lot of technology that's changed. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about AI, about ChatGPT, how that's changing the world. But for all the changes in technology, people have stayed the same. And it's still all about ROR, return on relationships.
Well, I want to say amen to that. It is all about return on relationship. And speaking of that, we're going to bring Ted in the room and let him take it from there. Here we go. Morning, Ted.
Hey, there you guys are, man. I've been sitting here waiting. I've been twiddling my thumbs. I was dancing to the music. I mean, it's nice to join you guys. I actually made it on time.
You did.
It's so fabulous.
Well, I loved looking at what I love watching you in the background there, Ted, during the music. You were going right off the bat. You were ready to go. So,
yeah, well, I got to my doctor's office so early that there was nobody at the front desk because I wanted to be the first one so I can make sure to get back on time. Again, apologies for that little for that fire drill. But like I said, there was driving time coming back, and when they rescheduled, I just didn't even see it conflicting with this. But here we are.
Life is good.
Well, listen, let's start off, Ted, with who is Ted Rubin and what are you all about? Give everybody a little intro on you.
I don't know if everybody else is like me, that they kind of hate that question. I'm 65, so who is Ted Rubin? Has a lot behind it. But I got, just to bring maybe some relevance to this conversation or into where we are here, I got involved in digital in 1997. I discussed it. I had the good fortune of going to work for Seth Godin with his first startup called Yoyodyne. I moved up, left my family in Florida, made the mistake of living with my in-laws for a few months. Don't ever do that, especially if they're like the Costanzas. They wake up yelling at each other. So, I believe everything happens for a reason. It got me out of the house incredibly early, much earlier than my normal time because I'm not an early riser. It got me to the office at 6:30 a.m. And the only other one there in this huge cavernous office in Irvington, New York was Seth. And Seth was holding forth on a lot of these ideas that have become integral parts of what we all do today, like permission marketing, like ideas as viruses. And I was sitting across from him when he wrote the article for Fast Company called Permission Marketing that became his first best-selling book, and probably the basis of a great deal of the marketing today, of people signing up for things, of people asking for information versus us, throwing it at them. So that was a great experience. I worked there through the acquisition from Yahoo, worked there for a little while, made my way through the whole Web 1.0 ups and downs, ended up I worked for a lead gen company. I worked with a lot of friends. I ended up at a company called Elf Cosmetics in 2008, which was an incredible experience. I became the CMO there because they needed someone who was willing to be the CMO, being told right up front there was no marketing budget. And they wanted a CMO with a sales background because they had about 4 or 5 million in sales. It was all digital at the time. They were not in any retailers. And it was a great experience because it was owned by a father-son. There was no legal team back when social media was starting to blossom, and I got to try and do just about anything as long as they didn't have to write a check for it. And other than one assistant and a couple of interns, and thank goodness the interns back then only cost $10 to $12 an hour. Some of them even were still working for free. Mm-hmm. So I got to try out new things. I was involved, in e-commerce with Seth Godin when it was simply a catalog online. And then as it developed with Elf, and from there I went to Open Sky. I learned about peer-to-peer commerce. I built the first Twitter syndication engine. I built the first aggregated content site for Elf, where if you just mention their name, it got sucked into a site called Ask Elf. And we learned that what people are doing now, that referral traffic from your customers can be way greater than the advertisements you build. They didn't call them influencers back then. They called them social media people. They called them bloggers. But, I got to play with that, and without a worry again of a legal team saying, oh my God, you can't post that, or a creative team saying the video is too shaky. But I got legitimate, authentic customers being excited about getting dollar cosmetics in the mail and women putting on their cosmetics online. And it was just an incredible learning experience. Like I said, from there, I ended up at Open Sky and learned a lot about peer-to-peer commerce, built this social syndication engine on Twitter, took it and basically brought me into a partnership at Collective Bias, where we created content using bloggers' content in a storytelling format for brands to drive traffic at retail. And then it's just kind of gone from there. Now, I've been fortunate enough to meet guys like Scott when I was speaking overseas. And like Scott said, that trip was pretty amazing. And I give all the credit on that to Samantha. The tweeting goddess. She was so happy to have us all there that instead of just bringing us in and having us speak, she wanted to make sure that we all got to know each other, that we all got to know Ireland. I ended up speaking in Ireland 6 or 7 more times. And we met people from the community. We met each other, and we built our own community, which had already started before we got there, but nothing cements it like a little face-to-face time. So, here we are now through all this. I wrote a few books: Return on Relationship, How to Look People in the Eye Digitally, the Age of Influence. And Scott introduced me to you, and here we are. And, now I wear t-shirts with messages, and, let's ripple. Every action has a ripple effect, and let's make some ripples and make a difference. So let's get this party started.
And Ted never has to buy his own socks.
And that is true. I never have to buy. I do usually have to buy workout socks sometimes, like, the small ones, because people don't. I might, what? I might have to put out a post saying, listen, I'm accepting all of them, but it's true. I kind of embraced something that was part of who I was, which was funky socks. And back in 2009, bloggers started taking pictures of them and sharing them, and it kind of took off from there. And now I post them whenever I travel and when I'm at conferences. I don't post them quite as much with people, but yes, I get socks in the mail all the time. It's like when you were a dad back when everyone wore ties, and on Father's Day you were going to get some ties. Now when people meet me or they see me, whether they bring something with their logo on it from their company, or just something fun, or someone needs a gift. So that is true, Scott. I still have ones I have not
Russ
yet.
With Russ, we have hashtag Russ Selfie, and you have hashtag Ted Saki.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, I just want to, I love what you're all about, Ted, and I wish you had more energy. I think you need to pick it up a little bit, but you have experienced so much, been able to do so many things. There was so much in that whole beginning intro. I kept thinking, you know, there was like mic drop after mic drop, but I really want to come to the end of when you were talking about when you all came in to Ireland and beginning, you started talking about community and how everything comes together, you know, and you, because of that, have met so many people, you know, Scott, and then Scott introduced you to me, and this goes on and on. And it is that ripple effect. It's that ripple effect of meeting amazing people, working together, collaborating, helping people. And then the things that have happened to you over your lifetime have happened because of those kind of meetings.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It happens because of that. It happens because most of us make a plan and that plan doesn't pan out to what we expect. So, you know, you really have to leave yourself open to opportunities. It's funny, the things I did, if you had asked me when it started in 1997 where it was going to go, you know, I would have said I'd join Seth Godin at Area 9 and I'd probably be selling internet advertising for the next 30 years. It wasn't even close to that. But part of it is changes you want. Some of it is changes you don't want. You know, I like this, one of the quotes I love, it's not mine, and it's really not attributed to anybody individual. It's one of those quotes when you look up, there's some questions where it came from, but it's life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. I have that on my Twitter handle. And it's about embracing what's going on around you and not waiting for the perfect moment or for the perfect thing or for the plan to pan out.
Right. Yeah.
Because it doesn't.
Well, that's exactly it. And life happens and then we choose. That is my favorite saying, because things are happening all around us. And if we embrace it and utilize it, whether it's good or bad, for example, right now, you know, many people know everybody's been praying for me. I'm going through this cancer journey, and people are coming around, and there's so many good things that have come out of this bad thing that is happening for me. You know, I'm a firm believer that God works all things for the good, and I have been utilizing what I'm learning and how I'm growing and the opportunities to encourage and inspire other people while I'm going through this. And so I think it's a matter of, you've got to embrace each situation, good or bad. And then what do you do with that? Where do you go with that? Right.
Joan Baez has a great quote. Action is the antidote to despair. And it, you know, again, and I have to remind myself about this a lot whenever, I mean, as simple as just waking up and feeling down, or something you expected to happen didn't happen, or a contract got canceled. And the best thing you can do is, and by the way, action doesn't necessarily mean solving the problem. Action means getting up and taking a walk or moving around. And yes, you know, what is the other expression? Man plans, God laughs. You know,
Right.
It just doesn't happen that way. So yeah, we got to embrace what's going on around us. And the same thing goes for opportunities in business. Or like, you know, what I try to do is I don't do a lot of brainstorming for the one-liners I have, or for, like, Let's Ripple is not mine. It's Steve Harper. It's a guy out of Austin who's a dear friend of mine. And I love to embrace other people's, you know, ideals, and Be Good to People comes from another place, from the company Be Good to People, and Chris Wittenberg. And when I see those things, to me, that's an opportunity like this. He brought it to me, said, wow, this is really in line with return on relationship. I'd love to, you know, we did a podcast. We've known each other for years. We met. He shared this stuff with me. Now I wear them all the time because I love it. And I also love wearing T-shirts with messages because they're conversation starters. The same thing with the socks or anything that's about, you know, quote unquote, your personal branding. I like to embrace things that are really about me, because then they're real and then they're authentic. And then I don't have to think about, you know, I'm not a persona, I'm me. And too many people try to be personas or what they think people want or accept. And I'm not going to question how people approach things on their own and what's best for them. But I will say it's easier to be yourself because you don't have to think about what you're going to say or do next. It's what you do naturally. And I love these things because, number one, is I love embracing other people's things and adding life to it. I love adding it to my world of return on relationship and Be Good to People and No Let Up. And I also, I love that people will walk up to me and say, what's Let's Ripple? Or Be Good. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people see Be Good to People, and you get kind of double, you get the one response from the people that say, right on, or I love your T-shirt, or I get treated differently by flight attendants now because they know, they say, oh, wow, I love your shirt. And they know that I mean, you got to be a real dick if you're going to be nasty and you're wearing a shirt that says "Be good to people." So, number one is it changes people's expectation of you, but number two is it's a reminder for yourself. I see that, and I see if I say hello to someone on the street, or I pick up something that somebody dropped. That's a ripple. I mean, that affects something. You throw a stone in a pond. You know how the rings go out. So, it's all good stuff. I enjoy it. I'm happy to be here with you guys. And yes, so I'm going on and on here, and I guess it's okay because I'm the guy that's getting interviewed.
Absolutely.
Go for it.
I've been reading a great book called "Shut the Fuck Up." And it goes a lot deeper than people think it does. It's not just about listen more, talk less. It goes to whether with your kids or yourself or managing people that talk too much. And I've been working on that on a personal level. And I don't feel like I talk too much except when I'm in situations like this. But then I have to remind myself that's what I'm here for. So, that's okay. And I just, we talk about community. And I always thought of myself as a networker because that was the word that was really part of our lexicon. Growing up, like you guys, I mean, we're all older. Sorry, guys. I don't mean to put you in the same group with me. We grew up with some different things. And, we grew up in a time when everyone talked about networking. And I think networking is great because you get to reach a lot of people. But a network is a series of nodes. But a community is when you bring people together. And what I didn't recognize for a lot of years is that I've always been a community builder. All my friends know each other. All of the people I meet in different places connect with each other. I bring them together. All my friends from all walks of life, or even when I see them in different places, they tend to know each other. Obviously, these platforms have made that easier. But I realized that that's what I do. And there's so much power in that because, yes, I think you said my quote earlier, a network gives you reach, but a community gives you power. And then my next line after that is networks connect, communities care. And I think what's a better representation of that than, Russ, what you've been going through and the way your community has come around to support you.
Well,
this
hey,
is just
Scott, if I
helpful.
could
Go
say
ahead,
one,
Russ.
I'm going to give it to you, but I want to say I love that you use that on Marketing with Russ too, that quote, networks connect, communities care. I love that. And that is so true. That is so true because you can just be about reaching out and doing so connecting, or you can become part of a community and really care about people. Scott, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going back to that social media summit, and I had written a pre-blog before we got there to post on the website, which was talking about community and that communities are built around common interest or a shared hardship. And of course, this last 3 years, the world has had a shared hardship. As we all went through COVID, we had something in common. We had something to rally around and bring us together. And oddly enough, Ted, the topic, if you remember, was that I gave was the psychology and physiology of relationships at the summit there, and basically took the academic research and proved that the relationships that we create digitally online, just like this, can be just as strong as those that we create face to face. And of course, this 3-year community building lab has proven that to be true. Because look, here's Ted and Russ, great friends, connected, sharing life together, never met face to face, right? And this whole thing about being who you are, because I met Samantha Kelly on Blab, and the same day, at that same meeting back on Blab, I met Samantha and Jackie Bernardi. We were on together on this Blab channel that Samantha had started. But the biggest compliment that I got, I was down in San Diego, social media marketing world. Jackie Bernardi drove from her home in Newport Beach, she took the train down to San Diego. We met face to face. And this was the greatest compliment I think that I had received. She said, "You are the same in person as you are online."
Right.
Yeah, and that's good to know. I mean, I think this, Ted, I'm going to kick it back to you, but I think this is exactly what you said. It's so much easier just to be yourself, just to be authentically who you are. When I started doing keynote speaking and doing events, I would have people feed me things and tell me, "Oh yeah, tell these jokes, tell them these things, do this kind of stuff." And I'm like, "No, I don't do that because that's not me. I'm just silly and goofy, and that's funny to people. I don't have to try to do other people. I just do me, and that makes life so much easier. And then I don't have to worry about it, right?"
No, 100%. When I first started speaking publicly on a more regular basis was around ELF, eyeslipsface.com, and the cosmetics company, and what I had done there with social media. And I remember speaking at an event, and I had not refined, really understood a lot about what you put up on the screen and slides. And I was just getting asked to speak because people wanted to hear what I built there and what I did. And there was a speaking coach in the audience, and she came up and introduced herself after the event. She goes, "I want to give you a really important piece of advice. Don't ever let a speaking coach train you." And of course, she didn't mean ever, or don't ask advice, or don't try to refine your craft. What she just said was the majority of them will take away what makes you unique, which is you and your passion and your talking from your. And she gave me a little advice about slides, which really helped because mine were way too busy. And she, it told me just to speak more from my heart and from my mind and put up things that are more of reminders on the screen that would lead the audience, but also be used to guide me through my presentation. And again, she has written to me periodically, year after year after that, saying, keep doing what you're doing, because there are some speakers that training is really important for. She goes, for you, you will lose your edge if you lose what it is about you that makes people connect with you. So that was great because I hate studying and I hate being trained. So I was kind of nervous when she came up to me that she was going to tell me how badly I needed training.
Scott?
It's just, it's so true. I tend to be a purist. I like, I don't like to mix things up. That is food, right? I mean, if I'm going to get food, just get just meat. Don't mix it up with a lot of other items. And this is one of the things is that if you take something that is pure and you start adding a lot of stuff to it, then you lose that essence of that first thing. And that's what I see with this speaking coach. He said, you're pure. You can add a lot of stuff onto it, but it will just cover up and hide what TED is all about.
Right. So, look, I do this online. I do this when I speak. I pay attention to my audience. I see what's connecting. And when I say I see what's working, I don't mean that I give them what they want. In other words, my opinions, I shape them so that they're happy with my opinions. I mean, for God's sake, TedRubin.com, my blog is called Straight Talk. And one thing I don't do is shape my opinions to make people happy. I speak my mind. But I will shape my presentation to make sure that they're getting it, that if I'm saying something and I expect a laugh and nobody laughs, that's a cue to me that maybe my message isn't being received the way I want it to be received. And it's such an important marketing thing that as marketers, we all make this mistake, or so many of us, that we market to ourselves or we market to our group. I can't tell you how many meetings I've been in with major agencies and companies, and we're talking about a product that's being marketed to 17-year-old girls. And there's 45-year-old guys giving me their opinion about how they perceive that and how they relate to it. I'm like, when was the last time you bought makeup to show up at your high school prom or whatever it was? Or women in their 20s, and there aren't people in the room. One of the things we did at Collective Bias that was great is every single meeting, we brought people that were part of that demographic to the meeting so that you could hear what they had to say. So what I'm talking about is pay attention to your customers. Don't market to yourself. So I have a great T-shirt that I wear. So as I said, I wear T-shirts with messages. One of them says, "I want tofu. I want some tofu." But it says, "I want TOFU," and I know that it says, "I want tofu." But when you wear it on stage, the people in the audience and anybody you approach reads that I want to F you. And I've worn this on stage. I had to be very selective to which event I did this at because I wanted to make sure the audience was conducive. And at Brandon Neighbors, we had an event at Cliff Bar. So it was kind of the perfect place because it's a bunch of people that are very into outdoors, that crunchy granola. A lot of them are vegan. A lot of them eat tofu. And the point I was making is I know what my t-shirt says, but I need to be aware of what the audience is seeing and what they're reading. What does it mean to them? And that's just a really important thing with everything we do is pay attention to your audience, know who you're speaking to. Again, be upfront, be yourself, but don't necessarily do it with an audience that's going to be very much against that. So I'm politically motivated in a lot of things, and I share how I feel online, but I share it on my page. I share it in my home. I don't go to other people's pages and post those ins, and then when someone comes to my place, as long as they're professional and they're polite, I'm happy to hear their contrary views, but I pay attention to where I am. And every once in a while I'll get somebody, as we all have, a troll on our site saying something that's rude. And when you try to calm it down by saying, listen, that's enough of that, let's move on. Or if you keep posting like that, I'm going to start deleting. And then they'll get, well, then you shouldn't have posted it. Well, this is my home. This is my page. And I certainly wouldn't go and post that on your page. So it's being aware of who your audience is or who you're dealing with or where you are. So when you do get invited into a conversation or a talk or something on someone else's page, recognize who you're talking to and then pay attention to the comments. When I'm posting even something controversial, very marketing controversial, I don't agree with some new thing, I feel a company's using AI in the wrong way, what I'll usually do is I'll start it out on Twitter. And the reason I do that is Twitter moves very, very fast, as you all know. Yes, once you tweet it, it doesn't go away. And if someone shares it or screenshots it, it's not gone. But it's not sitting on your page. Like if you write a post on LinkedIn or Facebook and it gets poorly received or misunderstood, it's there. If you go away for an hour or something, it's sitting there. You put it on Twitter, first of all, you get immediate feedback. Almost immediately, it hits the feed. And if it's something that's provocative or that if someone's upset with, they'll let you know. And I use that to shape my message when I'm doing something that I want to make sure I get across the right way. It doesn't have to necessarily be controversial. It can be a new idea. And as we all know, we say something and people look at you and go, oh, that doesn't make sense. And then when you take more time to explain it or frame it differently, they go, oh, wow, that's good. So I start on Twitter and sometimes I'll go through 3 or 4 or 5 iterations before I'll bring it to another place, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, my blog, or something like that. And then usually I'll start it out on LinkedIn or Facebook before I bring it to my blog so I can see what the comments are, because very often in there's very provocative statements. There's things that take issue with what you're saying. You give people the chance to help you, again, shape it better. And this is why this book, Shut the Fuck Up, is so important. Excuse my language, but that is the name of the book, STFU, because it's a matter of so many groups I go in, they formulate their message. They don't test it. They don't put it out there. Why aren't companies taking things they're doing these days where you don't have to do it 8-9 months in advance, buying your media time, creating your whole message, having posters printed up? We do things by the minute. Put it in a smaller venue. Test it out to a smaller audience. Get some feedback, not just to see if it's controversial or people don't like it, but to help them make it so you're putting it out there in a better way. How many commercials have we seen where you go, okay, what was the point of that? Or you don't even know what they're selling. Like, you know, I mean, how many Super Bowl ads have we seen when at the end of it you're going, who is that? What brand was that? You don't even know what brand it is. Why aren't these things being tested before when we have this capability to do this now? And I think a lot of it is self-awareness. It's recognizing that we don't have all the answers, that we're not the smartest guy in the room, that even if we are the smartest guy in the room, we don't have everybody's perspective or everybody's ideas that pop into their head. This is fabulous because it's such a practical process to go from Twitter to go to different platforms, end up on something that is a little bit more substantial. It reminds me of Jay Leno, because Jay would take jokes and go to the small clubs
and be in the room with a limited number of people and try some stuff out. It's like, oh, this works and this absolutely doesn't work. And then he can refine the delivery so that when it came to that monologue, which was his signature moment, he wasn't stepping all in it.
You know, Scott, I love that you brought that up because I've never put that together. Entertainment does that with everything. If you think about the entertainment industry in general, they do a pilot. They don't make 5,000 episodes, or they do one season and then decide whether they're going to do another season. Or how many times have we seen a show that we love that all of a sudden changes course or moves in a different direction? That's not happening haphazardly. That's because maybe they didn't get the reaction they want. Maybe it didn't happen the way they want. Musicians try out new riffs when they're on stage before they take it to a next level. I mean, I would say that's probably not that I'm an expert in this, but comedians do that all the time. I mean, how many times, you know, they try things out in smaller clubs before they bring it to the big stage or before they bring it to TV. And I think that, you know, I'm probably not the first guy to say this because this can't be a revelation that nobody else has ever had. But I would just say in marketing, especially the way marketing has turned, where content is so important, and that's how we connect with consumers, that we should be modeling more after the entertainment industry. There you go. Oh my God. So there's my thought for the day. You ever see the Seinfeld episode where George says, you got to go, okay, I'm out.
Fabulous.
I love how this all comes back to self-awareness, paid attention to what's going on. And, you know, really, again, your community and your audience is really teaching and training you through the reactions. And I love what you said, Ted, about trying things out on Twitter. I really tied into that because that is a great way to get short little things out and see how people react to them. And yeah, I now have a whole new perspective of Twitter.
Yeah, look, I love it for that, you know, and yes, a lot of things on Twitter have changed, whether it's the ownership or just the maturity of the platform. You know, being that we're on Twitter, I'm going to throw out one of the little, this is my personal advice. I'm sure there are people that disagree with me, but you know, and it's a great point because as business people, as marketers, as human beings, as fathers, as family members, we need to know that our thinking evolves. How many times have you heard someone say, well, that's not, like, he never said that before. Hey, guess what? New thinking. Or I have an old friend from in my 20s. And I remember when I started writing a lot about this and a lot about being a dad and being a divorced dad, we finally reconnected on social media. He's like, who are you? You're like, you're not the Teddy I used to know. And I'm like, this, by the way, this is 20 years later or 30 years later. I'm like, dude, some of us evolve. So some of us change. Some of us bring new thinking to things that we're doing. And that's just really important. It's, you know, I want to address something that you brought up because we touched on it very slightly. I talked about self-awareness, and a lot of that was about from a speaking perspective or a marketing perspective. But I talk about this a lot, really more in the platforms that like Insta Stories or Facebook Reels or TikTok. But people need to have a little more self-awareness about how their actions affect others. And like I experience it, and I'm sure you do like me, I experience it a lot in travel. When people, whether they're complaining or that guy that puts his bag down at the bottom of the escalator, dude, this thing's moving. You know, like, I'm coming. Like, that's not the place to stop. Or the people that walks abreast down the aisle on the way to planes because their flight isn't leaving for 2 hours, but a lot of us are rushing in between flights or connections. Or, you know, here's another simple thing, and I love that it's covered in the book I was referring to. You know, we all think it's great to be really nice to people behind the counter or to the, you know, at the store, but we're holding up everybody else in the back of the line, and we're preventing that person from doing their job and being effective. And yes, be nice, say good morning, but to sit there and have a long conversation with your barista at Starbucks, look behind you, be self-aware. Are there people waiting? Number one, are you keeping people waiting who need to get up and move along and get to work or get back to their family? Number two, are you preventing this person behind the counter from meeting the KPIs of their job, which might be serving a certain amount of people per hour when it's busy? Because in the end, they're going to get the problem for not moving you along, but they don't want to be impolite. So think more about how your actions, when you're on a plane and that guy who clips his toenails, for God's sake. Like, seriously? or the person that puts nail polish on. Hey, we are in a cigar tube at 20,000, 30,000 feet. We don't need something flammable or that smells and gets into our lungs like that. And then relating that back to the be good to people, what I really worked on and learned is don't be nasty to that person. Suggest something different, offer them something. I carry extra headphones. The ones they give away for free on the airlines when you fly up first class, or sometimes regularly. I keep half a dozen in my bag. And I use them for two purposes. I use them when the family's coming down the aisle and the little kid's asking their mom if they can get the headset. And she's saying, honey, we're not going to spend the money for that. And I love handing them to them. And they're sealed, so everybody's comfortable with them. But more importantly, I save them for that guy who's or that person who is watching a movie without headphones or talking into their phone with everybody else around them. And instead of being nasty or saying, hey, could you stop that? I'll take out a pair of headphones and say, hey, you must have forgotten yours. I have an extra pair. And then, usually if the person is any kind of human being, they'll go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. And either they'll say, no, I have a pair, or they'll take them because maybe they don't. And there's just ways to approach things. And I'm going to go on again a little bit more because I want to give a great example as an employee or as somebody that's working in a company. We've all seen good flight attendants and bad flight attendants. And I'm not talking about the one that loses their temper because things go over the top or it's a really bad day. But I'm talking about the guy, and we all know him, who's trying to shove his bag in the overhead and it won't fit, right? And he's sticking it in and he's trying to slam the thing shut. And there's two types of flight attendants. There's the one that comes over and says, sir, what are you doing? That's not going to fit up there, and starts a confrontation. And almost all of us as beings, and I don't think I'd be any different, even with the way I've tried to mature and evolve, is you fight back. I can get her. I'll do it. But then there's the flight attendant who comes up and goes, oh, sir, let me help you with that. Doesn't say a word about it, clearly won't fit. She gives it a try. She wiggles it a little bit. Then she goes, I don't think it's going to fit. Let me take it and get it checked for you. And 99 out of 100 times, that person is going to look and go, oh, thank you very much. It's hard when you're being approached with kindness. Not condensation, there's a difference, kindness, and then how you react back. And I just think a lot of us just have to think for a second. And, I learned this lesson years ago when I posted a couple of tweets or things that maybe I shouldn't have, that now, like when I'm almost every tweet I send or anything I post, I think about it before I send it. I write it, sit and link Facebook for a moment or two, and I look back at it, I step away. Again, not everything. Not if I'm writing something I've written before and I'm posting it, or something that's a little different, or something that's a little controversial, or something that's new. I think before I click.
I love that. Thinking about what you're doing and approaching people with kindness. We all need to really be more thoughtful about that every day of our lives, because I think we get caught up in ourselves, Ted, with all that's going on, thinking about what's going on with us, and we're not thinking about what's going on in other people. And a lot of times when I see people doing things or being abrasive or whatever, I'm thinking, and I'm really praying for them, thinking, I wonder what they're going through. I wonder what's going on in their life and making them this way. Not like, they're a horrible person, because we all go through things and we all react, right, to what's going on in life. And we need to be thoughtful and be kind to people instead of jumping on them in those situations.
It's beneficial to you. So there's a couple of things around that. Like, so you're a better man than I. You're starting to think more deeply into who they are and what they're going through. For me, I'm thinking, why ignite this situation? Like, very often silence is the best response. I say to people all the time, and I go through this on social media when I work with brands and there's something negative written about them, and all they want to do is their PR people want to jump in and give an answer or respond. And I go, just let it be. First of all, don't give this person air. There's no reason. They've got 5 followers. Half the time, the people that are doing this don't even have people that are listening. And then I say, and even if they have a lot of followers, first of all, give it time. Unless of course there's a fire in your back room, but if it's something about what you're doing, give give your advocates, first of all, a chance to protect you. What I will tell you that when someone writes something negative about me, I'll very often sit back, because within a couple of minutes, somebody that knows me will say, oh, you misunderstood Ted, or that's not what he meant, or that's not the way he was perceiving it, or, you're looking at that the wrong way, or he must have done that and he must be having a bad day because that's not who that person is, or that's not who that brand is. So I think that goes for all of us in our personal lives. It's when people go off, I just let them go off. When people make negative comments, I mean, I fly a diversity flag at my house. And by the way, the flag says love, peace, kindness, diversity, hope. I mean, who can have it? I mean, I'm not using organizations' names. I'm not promoting some kind of agenda. I'm basically saying, and because I've had people come up to me with my Be Good to People shirt and say, so what are you trying to say? And I know what their point is, but I won't take the bait. I'll go, I'm trying to say be good to people. And then every once in a while I'll get someone who'll say, so you're implying that I'm not? I'm like, no, it's really more of a reminder for myself, because I can, and I'll take it on myself. Or if you just don't give air to those things. And I'll tell you how I came to this. I went through a really bad divorce. I had to fight to keep my kids in my life. A lot of people know about this. I use a hashtag, this dad won't quit, and the dad will always love, even though my daughters have been alienated, and it's been really difficult. And I was really angry for a long time when this was first going on, back when I was fighting for them and I was bankrupting myself. I mean, at the age of 52, I was $300,000 in debt because of 7 figures in legal fees. I had to go to my friends to help support me. And when it ended, and this is a real true story, and I still own the URLs, because when people question me, I want them to go and see that I own the URLs. I was going to start a business called Rant About Your Ex. And because what was I doing? I was all upset. My best friends, of course, were being great for me. They were listeners. They were letting me get it out so that I didn't get it out in public. But I'm like, oh my God, there's a business in this. And this is a little pre-Facebook. It's right before all that hit out. And I bought the URLs, and I came up with this idea, and I went to a bunch of my friends. One's an attorney, one's a real top marketer for branding, another one's a finance guy. And apparently, without my knowledge, these guys all got together behind my back and said, we are never going to launch this business, but we're going to let Ted work through the issues he's having. I mean, I want to tell you how great these guys were. We had a logo. I had financial docs to raise money. I had a marketing plan. And I woke up one morning when it dawned on me that I'm angry and I don't want to be angry anymore. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my buddies are so vested in this idea. We were talking about how we're going to make millions. I think at the time, Facebook was starting to take off. I'm like, oh my God, people are going to love this. They're going to come in. And, but somebody had been talking to me about, all you're going to get is anger on this site. And all you're going to get, the only kind of advertisers you're going to get are Jerry Springer type of advertisers. And literally, I woke up one morning and said, I don't want to be angry anymore. I got them all together. I was really nervous about telling them that I'm backing away from this thing. We had like 10 meetings. We'd meet in the city in a conference room. They did this all for therapy for me. Because when I told them we weren't moving forward, one of them looked at the other and said, you want to give it to him or should I? And they went up to my buddy whose office it was. They went to his desk. They pulled out an envelope. They had a wax seal on it, so that I would know that it was legit. I open it up, and there's a note from each one of them that says, basically, NFW, you're not doing this, that they were ready to give to me. I kept pursuing it. And, it was a real enlightening moment for me, because I realized that how much energy being angry took out of me. And by the way, I'm not saying don't be politically involved. Don't, stand up for your causes. Don't be there for people. Don't necessarily get angry over something, because we all do. But letting anger fester inside you and making it part of who you are, it's so exhausting. And it's
and we know that when you let those things happen, that your body releases all the chemicals that are hard on your body, that they wear you out. I remember stopping at it was there was a traffic. This car was coming, and he didn't make the light. Right. And he stopped, and I'm just looking at his face and what he's going through. And I'm like, are you serious? Because it's like a minute and a half, maybe, before that light changes again. And you're letting all that cortisol run through your body just because of a light.
Isn't the human body amazing? I mean, look, when I get off these interviews, I'm exhausted because of the passion I bring out. But it's at least what I've experienced within my body and how it makes me feel, it's a positive exhaustion. It's not that debilitating exhaustion or that pit in your stomach or that feeling. And by the way, yes, I think someone commented here, what great friends, amazing friends. And go check it out. Rant About Your Ex, EX and the letter X. I own the URL. I pay for it every year just so people don't go, oh, come on, you made up that story.
Well, it's a great insight into who you are. It when I was in my 20s, my mother owned a flower shop, Memories Flower Shop.
Wow.
And so this was back in the early 80s. And one of the things that was popular to do at that time was to send your ex or, a person dead roses.
Oh God.
Right. This was a thing in the 80s, and flower shops would take and deliver dead roses to people just to say, I don't love you.
Right.
And my mother refused. She had people, they were going to pay a premium for dead roses. And she's like, no.
No. Well, listen, I want to jump in here because we're getting close to the end, and I wanted to be the responsible host and let everybody know we probably got 5 more minutes to wrap this up. But I wanted to say that the thing you're talking about, Ted, we all have so much energy to utilize. Why not use it for positive, uplifting, encouraging, inspiring people instead of pulling people down, dragging them through the mud, saying horrible things or doing horrible things to them? I think that is so we have the power to lift people up or tear people down. And boy, I tell you, I know you're this way, Ted, and I am this way. And Scott, let's lift them up. Let's be positive. Let's do things that make a difference. Let's be a positive impact on our world. And instead of ripping them apart because of something they're doing, be thoughtful about what we're doing and let a little kindness lead the way.
And let me add just a little something to that. Be selfish, because you're doing that for yourself too. I mean, I know we've all heard this and we've heard speakers speak about it, but it's really true. When you're feeling down, help somebody else. It'll make you feel better. And again, I'm serious. Like I am, a lot of my development around that personally is selfish. It's not just about helping people. I mean, look, I'm a good guy and I want to help people and I love that. But I do a lot of this for myself just because I've just found it's more uplifting for me. It makes me feel better. And that angst that you have when you're angry is just hard. It's hard to live with on a day-to-day basis. And it's like anything else. When you keep doing it until you stop, you sometimes don't realize how much it's getting you. My grandfather didn't retire into his 80s. He had survived the Holocaust. He escaped to this country. He raised money to bring Jews over from Poland. He worked his entire life, and we saw it debilitating him. And the grandkids and my parents kind of forced him to retire. And I remember about 2 or 3 weeks into his retirement, he said, how did I get up and do that every day? And I think we experienced some of that. I used to take the Long Island Railroad every single day. I mean, I remember the days at Elf, waking up at 6:30. I didn't wake up, make coffee, hang out. I woke up, I jumped in the shower. I had to race because if I didn't get to a certain train, there was no more parking. And, it wears on you.
It does.
And when you stop it is when you realize. So if you are that way and you feel it's not doing something to you, my suggestion, just like anything else, whether it's drinking, stop for a little while and see what the difference is. And then, and again, if there is no difference and you don't feel better, go back to being a jerk. I mean,
Well, what I was thinking about that exactly, Ted, what you're saying, because think about the times when I was young, I would get so mad in the car, a little road rage, yelling at people. And I'm thinking, am I hurting them or doing anything to them by screaming at them in my car where I'm all enclosed and they have no idea what's going on? And I'm thinking, no, I'm hurting myself. It's that exact point that when what we do to others comes back to us, when we're the other way and we're positive and encouraging and inspiring and lifting people up, it comes back to us and it makes us feel so much better. And with that, I'm going to let you have the last word, Ted. Give us your gold nugget of the day or your comments you're going to make, and then how do people get in touch with you?
Okay. So in relation to that, And it really is true, because it also comes back to you and who you are. That I like to say, a brand is what a business or person does. A reputation is what people remember and share. And when you build that reputation, people will treat you that way. People will offer to do things for you because they see you doing for others. And the last thing I want to leave people with is that relationships are like muscle tissue. The more you engage them, the stronger and more valuable they become. And Russ, that nothing is more true than that when it has to do with Scott and yourself and the relationship that we're building. So I really, truly appreciate that. And anybody here who wants to get in touch with me, first of all, just Google Ted Rubin. It's probably the first 15 pages or so is my content, things about me. Also, in case you don't get it here, all of my social sites, or at least LinkedIn and Facebook, have my phone number and email address available to the public. It's tedrubin@gmail.com. My phone number is 516-270-5511. Actually answer my phone, and if I don't, my voicemail is not full, so you will be able to leave a message. I promise I will get back to you. If I don't, please get back to me, because it means somehow it fell between the cracks, and I hate when that happens. And I'm at Ted Rubin on just about every social platform.
Well, that is so awesome, Ted. We have that magically appeared below you as you spoke. So everybody, it is clickable in the comments and it's in the show notes. So easy to get a hold of Ted. Just go straight to that. And I just want to tell you that I appreciate you so much. I love what you're all about, Ted. I appreciate you being on. I appreciate our friendship. I told you that when we first met and talked, that I'm a lifetime connector, so you're stuck with me as your friend. And so I just appreciate you and being so willing to be a blessing to Scott and I. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, guys.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up. We're going to send you to the green room. Hang tight for just 1 second, and we'll do the closer in here.
Fabulous.
Woo! Amazing. There's his mobile, everybody.
There we go.
Call him. We added that in. There you go.
Ted, very generous to spend time with us today, Ted. So I just thank you for that. If you comment with Ted on social media, LinkedIn or Facebook or any one of those channels out there, he responds. He's back there. I don't know how much energy Ted has, but apparently sleeping is not something that's high on the agenda. So love that.
Well, I love when people are what they say, do what they say. Just like, I've told you the story. And actually, when I was talking to Catherine yesterday, we were talking about this, and that is that when I started reading Bob Goff's books, a New York Times bestseller, amazing individual, love the guy, love his books. He puts his phone number in the back and says he answers.
Sure.
And I had an urgent situation. I actually had to call him, and he actually picked his phone up and he said, "Hi, this is Bob." And I said, "Hey, Bob, it's Russ." That's how it all started out, with this guy who you think is this big famous person beyond what you can reach, but he is what he says. And I think Ted is exactly that way. Ted is what he says. He is who he is. And that's what's amazing.
Well, it's great to hang out with you, Russ. And we should probably wrap this one up.
Yep, we should. I know you got things to do. So listen, everybody, don't forget that we're here every Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And we're on the Experience Backstage before this at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Instagram only, with our good friend Shri. And occasionally the Glitzer Practitioner, who is our big supporter, jumps in every now and then. So listen, thanks so much for being here today, everybody. We love this audience. We love your interaction. Until we see you again, have a great day and a great life, and
enjoy the experience.
Woohoo!
Thanks for tuning in to The Experience Live with Russ and Scott. If you enjoyed today's show, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or subscribe on YouTube. See you next time.